right. Video is going to be how I went from like 10 seconds in the eighth to where I'm running 669 at the million. Pretty much had a old dirt track motor and had way too much cam and had pop-ups and stuff, but I was running 10 flat and car wouldn't run consistent, wouldn't do much anything. Finally went out and built me another motor. I just went to the swap meet and got something that looked pretty good. It's 30 over 350. And I put it was a 498 cam. I called the cam companies, just a flat tap of cam back here. This was back in like 97 or so. Let me back up a little bit. I bought the car. Somebody had stripped it, was going to make a, I don't know what they were going to do with it. So I paid $200 for it. Did have a motor and a transmission. It had a V6, I think a 231, and it had a 7R 400 that came in the cars and the 10 bolt. And pretty much pulled the motor out and all that and cleaned it up, and the front grille was off it. I got pictures I'll show you, and the dash was all messed up, and anyway, I had to go to the junkyard and get bits and pieces and get the thing fixed up and all that. And anyway, I paid $200 for it, sold $50 worth of the chrome and other things that I wasn't going to use to a guy. And this was back when you ran ads in the newspapers and all that. And anyway, I had built this dirt track motor, had 462, small block Chevy heads with the torquer intake and a really piece of junk carburetor, and it ran tens, but it wasn't consistent. It was all over the place, and I maybe went to 3 or 4 races or maybe for a year, but really didn't do much good with it. And then I built this 350 motor, 30 over, got the 500 lift cam, went to the drag strip, immediately went to 8.0s, and I think I was running like 74 miles an hour at that time. And that's pretty much where I stayed for 4 or 5 years. Still, car was not consistent. It would, be a tenth off one run and other things. But when I built the motor with the 500 lift cam, the second pass with the 10 bolt, I just chunked that right out. So at that point, bought a 9-inch housing to go into my Gbody and bolted it in, and got a truck center section and put some 456 gears. Went to the swap meet, found a traction lock Ford rear end that I put in it, and always heard that if the track wasn't good and everything, it was better to run the track lock or a limited slip differential instead of a spool. So I ran that for 2 or 3 years, like I say, and I was running 8s, ran 795s, all around that, about still 75 miles an hour, nothing. Did go a few rounds here and there, but nothing very, very consistent. And anyway, I don't know, it must have been maybe 2000 or so. I pulled the motor out and rebuilt it. I got it punched out to 60, bought a whole scat rotating assembly and put in the thing, and pretty much started running like 770s, went down to 750s, and, you know, got some better carburetors, still had the 500 lift cam, and all of a sudden the motor started having problems with the oil pressure. And I looked around and found another, well, this was a pretty decent 383 with flat tops that I found for a reasonable price. And got some Pro Comp heads, which aren't the best, but they work. But anyway, I worked the car down where it was running 750s, I think about 90 miles an hour. I've got an old logbook that I'll start going over on another video. And anyway, when I put the motor together, I think, you know, I've been running like the best with the 350 was like 734. And I put this 383 in the car, and I didn't throw a lot of time in it until I got it broken in. But the car slowed down. It didn't go any faster. I had 30 more cubic inches. I had a 600 lift solid lifter roller cam in it. And the car did not go any quicker. And I had like 32 degrees of advance. And I was at Texas Motorplex when I was running this. And when I, you know, I got mad. So I said, screw this crap. I threw 38 degrees advance. And I was all over the racetrack. I mean, the car just did not handle, you know, up to this time, I never really had that much trouble. And so, anyway, I went home and did a lot of reading. And in this time, I had the back, because if you look at the back ends of the car above the wheel wells, you'll see where it wrinkles in that. There's not a lot of support, and I'd supported that and got some good bars and strengthened things up and all this. But I started doing a lot of reading, and on these Malibus and all the Gbodies, they're square tubing to just about your foot wheel wells, and then it goes into a C channel, and it's back to the square tubing for the rest of the way. Well, they did that for the cars to give it some ride quality going down the road. Well, if you're not going on the street, then I got a 6-inch by 8-inch plates. I think one side was like 32 inches and the other was like 36 or so, and the station wagons and things are different. But anyway, I had them tack welded in. If I was building the Gbody from scratch, that's the first thing I'd do. I'd pick the body up off it, but I'd already had a roll bar in it and things so where I really couldn't get at it. So I tacked it, had it tacked at the back and the front and welded in as best I could. And the next time I went out to the drag strip, the car went from 734 into 690s, and I've pretty much stayed there ever since, unless, you know, the track's really crappy or something like that. And it really stiffened the car up, made it track better and everything. And then the other thing I did is the center of gravity. I had an article that if I find it, I'll list it on it. But anyway, I got the lift out of the car. Instead of lifting up, if you look, I'll have a couple pictures after I talk about this part, where instead of picking the front end and pulling a wheel stand, it just pulls it up and pushes forward. And, you know, I maybe got a tenth or so out of it, but the main thing was just tying the back and the front and, you know, just lightening the car up. Pretty much got over this time, I started lightening the cars up. I'm getting older. one reason I'm doing these videos. But I put fiberglass doors on the car. And everybody's saying, and that picked me up a tenth here and there and all along. Cut out the trans tunnel where I got Zeus's, and I put some metal where it's all sealed up, but you can pop it out and I can get the motor and the transmission out, you know, real easy. Also in the front end, I cut out the bars that I will take some pictures of later on in another video, where I can drop the oil pan. It goes to the middle where the oil pan goes straight down to some bars that bolt in and goes across. And with solid motor mounts, it's good and solid, but you got to have solid motor mounts. You can't do this with the factory stock because the whole front end, but you know, if you get solid motor mounts, and I'll show you all this in a future video, it'll hold it together. And what that does is you can drop the pan if you've got problems, and it puts my diaper in there too, which, you know, you really need to have a diaper if you're drag racing. Plenty of people tell you how they saved their cars because you didn't get oil when you kicked the rod out, and I don't care who you are, sooner or later you will, and you know, it just happens. You're pushing everything. So anyway, that's how I've got my car down to the best, I think, is 669 and at 120 miles an hour, and that's pretty much where I want to keep it. But I will show video of it when I can get a chance, but right now I just wanted to show you, and I've got logbooks showing how I went down, and I'll, you know, show you how, you know, what it did to me. When I put the fiberglass doors, I picked up a tenth. But I pretty much made the car, because I'm getting older, where I'm working on it. The whole front end's all metal, but I've got it where 3 Zeus's on the side, and the whole front end comes out with an electrical connection that I put in, and the whole front end moves out of the way where you can work on things a lot better, and it's got a fiberglass hood and that, and it's just, you know, anything I could make it. I put the fiberglass doors on more because 2 pins, you pop them out and you can get, you're not fighting with the doors if you're working on something in it. And like I said, but the main thing I wanted to say first of all is putting a plate in, and 6-inch by 1/8-inch flat plate fits up in there nice. There's a lip and you can tack it all in. But the first thing I would do is just clean up the frame, pick the body up, and weld the thing in as best you can, because it just gives it a lot more structural integrity with my roll bar and that. So that'll do it for today. I'm going to put some pictures and show you, as I was talking, some pictures of showing how the car reacted. So we will talk with you later. This is a picture of when the car was running 8 flat. Pretty much had 10 5s with tires on it. This is car before I started working with the CGs to get it to launch. As you can see, it's pulling a big wheelie in that, and it slows the car down a little bit. And this is how I got the car now. Ran 669 at 121 miles an hour, and pretty much the quickest I've ever gone. But as you can see, it pushes the car forward and not up. So you're using that energy to go faster.